Welcome back to Shibuya Scramble. So this time we are going to check with Achi, because I want to see if what we do here will affect Tama at all. This guy will just not give up. At the far end of the alley, you can see a forklift parked beside a pile of cardboard boxes. Achi decided to throw the boxes at their pursuer. Achi snatched up the nearest box, turned, and threw it at the man with the cane. The box was filled with something heavy. This ought to do some damage. He watched with satisfaction as it struck the assassin in the face. The man staggered sideways. "Here, have another." One by one, Achi hurled every box in the pile. And one for the road. The last box wasn't properly sealed. It broke open as it struck their pursuer, sending several bottles flying. They shattered as they crashed onto the street, splashing red liquid. Okay, is that burning hammer? It looks like it might be. I think it might be. Yeah, that definitely looks like it. The assassin dropped to one knee, scrubbing at his face with his hand. Achi looked on in surprise. He couldn't possibly have hit the guy that hard. Peering at the man more closely, he saw that he was spattered in red liquid. Apparently, the stuff in the bottles had gotten in his eyes. Now's our chance. Achi took off with Hitomi, leaving their pursuer kneeling in the alley. Their ragged breathing echoed through the maze of side streets. All that work just to wind up fleeing for their lives again. Okay, so Somehow that affected Tama. I don't know why. Like, it still seemed like they got destroyed a little bit, but maybe the boxes that he threw are kind of okay, and just the one is broken. Alright. So we'll jump right here. With the miracle stones still clutched in my hand, I hurry out to the loading dock. I brace myself before actually stepping out the door. It's there. It's really there. The cardboard boxes are scattered all around outside. Wait, scattered all around? What happened to them? I suddenly have a very bad feeling about this. Apprehension gnaws at me as I open up one of the boxes. Oh. No. I shriek and my vision dims. The box is full of bottles of burning hammer. All of them smashed to pieces. If this is a bad end... To be continued? What? Okay. I was gonna say, if this was a bad end, then this is really interesting, because we would have to find a choice that makes Achi's choice not happen, because both of his things caused that. But that's interesting. So, she's hit it to be continued. Achi has not hit an end yet. Minorikawa has also not hit an end, and Osawa, we haven't gone far enough with him yet. Kano is still at a bad end right now. I don't know why. Hold on. Which bad end was this? What happens here? I don't remember why he's on a bad end. We don't want him to be. Okay. So we lost him. We let him get away. I think that must be... Hold on. No, if I recall correctly, we actually couldn't figure out how to get around this, because we tried both of these choices, and it didn't make a difference. Yeah. And this one, yeah, that didn't make a difference. Okay, so we definitely need someone else to interfere here. Maybe Osawa, I don't know. But in any case, let's continue with Minorikawa for now. Or should we continue with Achi? Yeah, let's continue with Achi. Achi ground his teeth in frustration. Hitomi, he groaned when they slowed down to catch their breath at last. I'm so sorry. Hitomi was nonplussed. Sorry? Whatever for? I keep saying how I'm gonna help you, but instead I just keep putting you in danger. Achi, no. If you hadn't been with me, I'm sure I'd already be dead. No, Achi hurried to cut her off before she could finish. Don't go there, please. He sighed, then spoke again more quietly. I just want to help you. Clenching a fist, he looked up at the sky. A tiny sliver of blue was visible through the narrow gap between the buildings. Hitomi hung her head. Honestly, I can hardly believe how much you've done for me. I do appreciate it, but still. The lengths you've gone to... Achi looked at his feet, then drew himself up. Well, I admit it's not just because of some gut instinct or your love for the environment, he said. There's another reason I'm doing this. There is. Achi paused, searching for the right words. Oh, I've got a little sister. Her name's Suzune. She's cute and smart, kind of the exact opposite of me, you know? His voice took on an uncharacteristic solemnity. But she's got a weak heart, so she's in the hospital. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. But what does that have to do with wanting to help me? Back when Suzune was first admitted, I'd go and visit her every day. But she... Achi, you don't need to come visit me every day, you know. The quiet hospital room made Suzune's voice sound all the more frail. What are you talking about? Achi said. You know I'm worried about you. I'll be fine on my own, really. Achi had heard that line before. The more she insisted she was fine, though, the more reluctant he was to leave her. Besides, aren't you the amazing guy who helps hold Shibuya together? They need you out there. Well, that explains maybe why he left the gang. Achi didn't know how to respond to that. Much as it was flattering to think he played some important role, he was really just hanging out and goofing off with his pals. It certainly wasn't anything for his sister to be proud of. I'd rather you spent your energy helping people who need it more than me. What do you mean, people who need the help more? Who could possibly need help right now more than you? Auntie scratched his head in confusion, and his sister gave him a weak, tiny smile. You'll figure it out, she said. I'm sure they'll find you soon enough. You know, I kind of wonder if maybe, depending on how this turns out, maybe Tama is Suzune. But I'm gonna be here with you. I'll be fine. Suzune's face was pale, but her tone was firm. My big brother is gonna be out there doing his best to help people. That's what makes me happy. That's what keeps me going. Her voice was clear and unwavering, as if to head off his rebuttal. All right, Auntie said with a reluctant sigh. So then... I guess, I'll just go out there and help people who are in trouble. Satisfied, Suzune smiled. Thank you. And can you promise me one more thing? Of course. Anything you like. He thumped himself on the chest. If you're gonna help someone, make sure you see it all the way through to the end, okay? Okay. No calling it quits partway through, yeah? You got it. I just worry, Suzune said. I know you have a tendency to lose interest in things. Look, don't sweat it. I swear I won't give up on this. Auntie stuck out his pinky finger. But I want you to promise me something in return. Promise me you won't let this thing beat you. Suzune hooked her little finger around her brother's, her sad smile fragile as glass. And so, there you have it, Nachi said. Kind of a rubbish story, I know. Not very funny. So your sister's heart condition, it's pretty bad. Nachi nodded. You know, she called me amazing. There's nothing amazing about me. Suzune, she's the amazing one. She's been in the hospital so long, in so much pain, but she never complains. All I do is hang out and goof off with my friends. He gave a shrug. But I just kept thinking about how happy she'd be if I really did help people. It had turned out that finding people in need hadn't been all that simple. The only helpful thing Achi had been able to think of was going around picking up trash. And that's why Suzune's idiot brother left SOS to be Shibuya's garbage man. And it's kind of funny that in doing that, he also made SOS, well, he left SOS to become like the worst gang in Shibuya. So, there's that. Did your friends know? Hitomi asked. About your sister. I didn't tell them. I didn't want to pin this all on her being sick. Ah, I see. At least now Hitomi understood what the fight with the local toughs had been about. The sound of approaching footsteps jerked them back into the present. The man with the cane appeared at the end of the alley. He raised his gun. There was no time to flee. Achi quickly stepped in front of Hitomi. If you shoot us here, people are going to come running, he said. I'm guessing you don't want to get pegged for murder? The assassin didn't flinch. Stay out of my way, Achi. This time, there was no doubt. The gunman had spoken Achi's name loud and clear. How do you know who I am? The man stared at him through the sights of his gun. She has to die, Achi. It's for your own good. What? What does he mean? Hitomi whispered. Achi, what is he talking about? Achi's mind was a whirl. Things were coming at him too fast for him to process. I don't know this guy. He told me, please, you have to believe me. But he told me he took a doubtful step away from Achi. The assassin didn't miss his opening. He quickly aimed at her. Cut the crap, man. What do you mean killing her is for my own good? Once she's dead, you'll understand. The gunman's finger tightened on the trigger. To be continued, of course. Just seems like all these to be continueds are just like things going horribly for everybody. I mean, then we've got Kano, who it was just a bad end for him. But now we can move on to Minorikawa. Alright. Whoops. Wait, what's this here? A cat. No, I mean, yes, there was a person in a cat costume. I thought since I couldn't see their face, it'd be easier to ask them stuff. Fine, whatever. Now get back out there and get me some more. Minorikawa steered Chiaki toward the passing crowd. What, now? Yes, now. We've got no time to waste. I'll even stand by and watch for a minute. Now, enough with the excuses and get out there. Minorikawa looked on as Chiaki wandered through the crowd. Her anxious demeanor seemed to repel everyone around her. On the rare chance she did manage to flag someone down, the way she stammered through her initial questions made them take right off again. After a minute or two, she shuffled her way back, shoulders slumped. See, it's hopeless. Okay, some advice. First off, you aren't approaching the right people. Some people are clearly in a rush, you know? You're not going to have much luck trying to flag down a businessman who's visibly in a hurry. Now, folks who are waiting on someone, couples, groups, they're going to be less on their guard. But, I mean, if I do manage to nab someone, how do I keep the conversation going? Chiaki asked. That was indeed the tricky part. Whenever I get an answer I'm not expecting, I get all flustered. Chiaki, have you ever played tennis? Tennis? Well, yeah. I was in my school's tennis club. She struck Minorikawa as being more the manga club type, but that was neither here nor there. Okay, that'll make this simpler. What's more fun, rallying with an opponent, or hitting the ball off a wall? Rallying with someone else, of course. Minorikawa gave a hearty nod. And why is that? Because when you hit the ball off a wall, you already know where it's going to come back to. Revelation dawned on Chiaki's face. Oh. It's the same with interviews, Minorikawa said. Don't get flustered. Enjoy the rally. But I don't think I'm composed enough to enjoy it. Now, don't overthink things. Just let yourself enjoy the small talk. Small talk? Oh, I'm sure I'm not any good at that. She was starting to waffle again. Okay, let me ask you this, Minorikawa said, taking a step closer. Are you happy with your life right now? I'm not happy with my life right now, no, Chiaki muttered. She hung her head in dismay. Okay, so start with that, Minorikawa said. Huh? Chiaki blinked a few times as she lifted her head back up. I'm not happy with my life right now, but what about you? Like that. Oh, okay. A sliver of liveliness had crept back into Chiaki's voice. I don't know, that seems like it could backfire. Like, that doesn't seem like a great line. Minorikawa jabbed his finger right in her face. Right there, he said. Put on that face when you flag people down. Chiaki's smile widened. I'll give it a shot. Thank you so much. Sure thing. Good luck. Chiaki strode enthusiastically into the crowd and tried to flag down a Westerner who was walking hurriedly past. Did she even listen to a word I said? Minorikawa felt his short-lived triumph melt away. Am I just gonna have to teach her everything again from scratch? Then he paused in surprise. Hold on. Okay, good. Whoa. Chiaki had snatched the man by the arm in an attempt to get him to stop. To Minorikawa's amazement, the gambit worked. Before long, it looked like the two were engaged in some kind of animated conversation. Maybe she would get an interview out of this after all. Heck, the look on her face was actually somewhat confident. Sometimes, people could surprise you once you got past their surface issues. Now Minorikawa could head to the Burning Hammer sales demo with a little more peace of mind. Speaking of which... Crap, what time is it? In a panic, Minorikawa checked his wristwatch. Think about this wristwatch. That will tell you how much... or how you think about the opposite sex and whatnot. What? So, because I said that I think it's, like, kind of middle of the road, it's not too expensive, it's not too cheap, somehow that tells me about what I think about the opposite sex? I'm not sure I follow, but okay. The demo was set to start in less than 5 minutes. Uh-oh. He really was cutting it close. Minorikawa sprinted through the intersection, heading for center guy. And there's his to be continued. So the only person left who can save Kano is gonna have to be... Osawa. Because everybody else has hit their to be continued. So I guess we're gonna go straight back to Osawa, right? To be continued, bad end, and to be continued. So, let's, I think this is the first time one of Osawa's choices will actually affect anybody else's, right? I mean, there was Minorikawa's choice affecting Osawa, but this is the first time Osawa's actually gonna affect someone else, I think. So, let's do it. It's been a while. I don't even really remember where we were with him, but I think, well, there we go. 2 years ago with Maria. The rain won't let up. No matter how much time passes, it just won't stop. Ever since that day, the sound of raindrops has been burned into my mind. Such an awful, heart-rending sound, driving me to strip my life down to shadows. And yet, no matter what else I abandon, nothing will make the sound of the rain stop. King Solomon's Pillars. Osawa stared at a postcard that was nestled into the final page of the photo album. He'd purchased it 2 years ago while on a trip with Maria to the Middle East. Originally used to indicate Iran, Afghanistan, and the region surrounding them, in modern times the term refers to part of southwestern Asia, including India and Afghanistan, and the section of northeastern Africa along the Mediterranean coast. However, in Japan, as well as the US, the term Middle East is often understood to refer specifically to those parts of the region with a strong Islamic influence. I think that's kind of how it's understood in most places, not just Japan, but yeah. Although I guess they probably, like the people around there, would probably take offense to that. He'd mentioned that he was being sent there on business, and Maria had just blurted out, "I want to go with you." She'd recently developed an interest in the Middle East conflict, and apparently she had been yearning to see the area firsthand. Interesting that he was in the area near Africa. Not quite in Africa, but near there. So that could have something to do with the email he was getting before. Middle East conflict. The ongoing friction in the Palestine region between the Jewish people who founded the nation of Israel and the Arabs who had been living there previously. The religious and historical context of this cultural clash is well beyond the scope of what can be elucidated here. Yeah. His daughter's newfound curiosity had taken him aback. She had always tended to be quiet and self-contained. The clumsy conversations aboard the airplane, the meals eaten together in awkward silence. It all felt like such a distant memory to Osawa now. "Ma'am, I'm afraid I can't let you do that," he heard Kajiwara's voice outside the door. "Why ever not? I'm just going out for a bit." The detective was arguing with I. Great. And just who was it who told me I should try to go about my life as normal? Osawa's wife sneered. "Ma'am, please, wait. How would you feel about being told to just sit around and wait?" Ai's angry shriek jerked Osawa to his feet. He hurried he hurried from the study to try to calm her down. Ma'am, please wait." But by the time Osawa had made his way downstairs, his wife had already stormed outside, despite Kajiwara's attempts to stop her. Osawa doubted anything he could have said would have stopped Ai from leaving. Trying to physically keep her from going out would have only made an even worse uproar. He was glad that at least it hadn't come to that. He was turning to head back to the study when Kajiwara caught his eye. Resigned, he headed down the stairs and bowed to the detective. "Any idea where she's going?" Kajiwara asked. "I mean, at a time like this?" "Well, we know that she's going to that cafe, but the question is why? And why does she have a bug on her?" Osawa shook his head. "I wouldn't know. I didn't think so. You know, your wife really is something else." Osawa arched an eyebrow. "That's one way to describe her." That's literally the exact words that I was thinking. A rather rude way, as a matter of fact. Well, not that part, though. I think yeah. I was thinking the opposite. Like, maybe you're being a little too kind to her there. Oh, no offense intended. It's just that, ever since this case started, you've been both holed up in your own respective rooms. The more Kajiwara spoke, the more irritated Osawa became. "What's your point?" he demanded. "I just mean you haven't been having any, marital discourse." According to one survey, in roughly 6% of households, discourse between spouses is largely non-existent. Various reasons for this were offered by the couples in question. Many claimed that they were too tired to have the energy to talk, or stated, "We wind up fighting when we talk," or "We have nothing to talk about." "Mind your own business," Osawa snapped. Kajiwara dipped his head deferentially. "Two of us not talking isn't a new thing anyhow," Osawa added. "I have a policy of not having pointless conversations. It's quite common for Kenji Osawa to make it through an entire day without having a single conversation. On many days he opens his mouth only to eat or brush his teeth. His current record is a streak of 14 consecutive days during which he didn't talk to anyone. I mean, I've probably broken that record at some point." Huh? It didn't look as though Kajiwara quite understood. "Microorganisms such as viruses don't have conversations, yet they still continually propagate in order to survive." Thinking about viruses, Osawa was back in a familiar territory. He felt a surge of confidence. Once you have a clear purpose, conversation is unnecessary. "And do you have a clear purpose for the relationship with your wife, Mr. Osawa?" "Of course I do. To be a family." Arms crossed, Kajiwara struck a thoughtful pose. "At least I've learned one useful thing today, Mr. Osawa. Namely, that you don't like to have pointless conversations. It's a good thing to know. Kajiwara uncrossed his arms for a moment, then crossed them right back again, furrowing his brow. But see, that's funny. You seem to have a tendency to have pointless conversations with me, and because you keep coming to talk to me. Osawa saw red. Don't leave much of a choice. Tanaka poked his head out of the living room. Is something the matter? He asked. No. Osawa struggled to regain his calm. Perfect timing, actually. There's something I need to talk to you about. He turned back to Kajiwara. My apologies, Detective, but would you mind giving us some privacy? Kajiwara didn't move. Detective. Osawa gave the policeman a hard look and saw him crack a smile. Yes, what is it? Kajiwara said at last. Don't you play dumb with me. Give us some privacy. Is this a discussion I shouldn't overhear? Actually, yes, it's work-related. They're business matters I prefer to keep confidential. Ah, I see. Reluctantly getting to his feet, Kajiwara slipped away into the living room. Tanaka, Osawa began. About those emails. He stopped abruptly. Kajiwara had reappeared in the living room door, staring right at them. What are you doing? Osawa demanded. Oh, should I not be watching? Osawa felt like he was about to burst a blood vessel. What is with this guy? He's like... I just thought he was a minor character at first, but now he seems like he's acting really villain-like. I mean, you never told me that I couldn't watch. Because it should be obvious. The detective made a scolded puppy face, then closed the living room door. Osawa let out a heavy sigh. He'd never been an extrovert, but he didn't recall human interaction being quite this draining. Anyway, sir, Tanaka prompted. You were saying? Yes, about those emails. Something doesn't make sense. I don't understand how Mr. Makino was able to get the antiviral agent to anyone on the outside. Sharing an Okoshi Pharmaceuticals drug with external sources while it was still under development required the approval of an executive committee that included Osawa himself. There should have been no way the antiviral could be sent out without his knowledge. Tanaka hesitated a few moments before responding. Are you aware of the strife between the company president and the chairman? Osawa shook his head. He was a researcher through and through. Factional rivalries held no interest for him whatsoever. Makino effectively leads the chairman's team, and the antiviral agent is their pet project. Despite being the executive officer in charge of the project, however, Makino still needs the president's approval to... You know what? Forget about that right now. What do we do about security? In theory, it was physically impossible to get the antiviral out of the lab without detection. Entry to the biohazard laboratory where it was kept required fingerprint authentication for both Osawa and Tanaka. Technology that allows an individual's identity to be verified by scanning the fingerprints. It is one element of biometrics, the measurement of physical characteristics to identify individuals. There are even devices that can identify people by checking the veins in the palms of their hands or the irises of their eyes. Actually, we can play that. Without the two of them there, nobody could even get into the storage facility. So because a dangerous virus is stored there, the lab where the antiviral is kept is protected by an ID checkpoint as well as a sophisticated 3-tiered lock system that requires fingerprint authentication. Multiple security guards are also posted outside the laboratory. Entrance 24 hours a day, making it all but impossible for an unauthorized person to get into the secured storage area. So I don't know how... I think this came out in like 2008, but I don't know how far in the future this is, but I know that biometrics, especially fingerprint authentication, can be easily bypassed. All you have to do is like take a really high quality photo of a person's finger and like just take a high enough photo that happens to have their hands in it, and then you can get the fingerprint right off the photo and just create like a synthetic one. Like nowadays you would 3D print it, I guess, but back then I don't know what you would do. I imagine it would be pretty difficult. Tanaka followed his drift. Ah yes, I see what you mean. He inclined his head in thought as Osawa continued. Could someone have overwritten the fingerprint authentication program? I mean, there's that, I guess. Well, I think the first thing we should obviously do is check the entry logs. Let's check the entry logs for the storage section. Anyone who wanted to get inside had to present their ID card to the security guard on duty. It should be possible to check the computer logs to see if there had been any suspicious activity in the system. Tanaka shook his head. I already checked the logs, sir. There was no evidence of anything suspicious. You're welcome to check for yourself, though, if you're that worried. No, I believe you. Yet the fact was that the antiviral had been used for clinical testing. Either Makino had taken it from the laboratory personally, or someone working on his orders had done so. But how? Was there really some way they could have bypassed lab security without anyone else knowing? Osawa couldn't think how it would be possible. The living room door opened with a soft creak. It was Kajiwara, and he looked stiff and pale. Something terrible has happened, he said. Visions of tragedy flooded Osawa's mind. Maria, is she... Kajiwara shook his head. No, it's not that.